Hello, it's Laura Coleman here from Be Modern Meditation. If you're watching this on a replay somewhere, and I am it. Oh, hi, Yvonne. Lovely to see you, Yvonne. I've got my cat with me today. Hang on, Daisy. Hello, Daisy. Daisy, I hear this kind of those toys. I don't know if you've ever had those toys where when you shake it, kind of. I'm not going to do that very good justice, but my cat sounds a bit like that when she runs, and so here she comes. Hello, darling. She comes running down after me. Maybe Daisy. Hang on, you can see her. She comes running down, and it sounds like this. Somebody's shaking some toy, and that's how I know she's coming. But being a cat, she is totally the boss, and she knows it. She knows it. Even the dog knows it. Everyone knows it. If you've got cats, then you know what I mean. I love my dog, but I love my cat too. Don't tell Milky. Don't tell Milky that Daisy's my favourite. Now, today's meditation practice, I wanted to talk about two things. So the first thing was I came out here this morning at just after 7, and I was doing my morning meditation, and I thought I'm going to bring you guys with me. And unfortunately, my phone here is on its last leg, so I've had to order a new one because it sounds as if I'm right by a river. It sounds like I'm by a waterfall. So you couldn't quite hear the beautiful bird song. But one of the things I'm planning for in my membership community is the chance for longer sort of practices where we practice being in silence, because I drew the analogy of that you can learn meditation either as like brain training, as kind of like gym metaphor of training, where you start small and you build that capacity and that muscle and that strength, and then you get bigger, and then you take some of the scaffolding away and you build a practice that way. Or you can learn it a bit more like learning a language, where you immerse yourself and you have to feel a bit disoriented and a little bit lost and not quite sure. And that's what sometimes sitting in silence before you feel like you're ready for it can actually be. And it can actually be a great way to keep growing your capacity to sit with yourself by having those two approaches. So I will be doing that over the next couple of weeks before I over the next coming weeks, so that if I'll just spontaneously sometimes come on in the morning. If you're around and you want to sit in silence with me and meditate together, then come and join me. And in terms of our meditation this afternoon, I wanted to talk about awareness, because when I did the lunch, learn and restore session today, which was like a 45-minute power burst, got a little fairy dust thing. The topic today was science of stress, and we were looking at how we can use an understanding of what's going on with stress to and then what meditation does to combat stress in the body, and really looking at the science of that as a foundation for building a practice. And it was a really great session. But one of the things that was really interesting to me was that one of the people commented when we were talking about becoming more aware in a practice and what they experienced while we were in the practice. They had thought of meditation as being more about becoming less aware, about letting go, about sort of tuning out, not tuning in. And I thought that was really interesting, because that is something that we do commonly think of with meditation. We think of it as being it's like an escape from things. But actually, if we use it as a way to train and build our attention and our awareness, we can actually end up being able to cope with things better. Because if you imagine, if my awareness of the world is like this big, and everything that's happening to me is in this awareness bubble of what I'm aware of, then something happens, whether it's something difficult or even something good, and it really fills that bubble. Whereas if I can train my capacity to be more and more aware and have space, suddenly that same problem or difficulty or even positive thing, suddenly the container holding it, that awareness that I have, is bigger. And so it doesn't feel as big. And that's probably one of the reasons why, when you train your awareness in this way, you start to experience stress in your life differently, even apart from the physiological response that you create when you come out of that stress response. Even just mentally, what you're creating. And in next Friday's lunch, learn and restore session, I'm going to be talking about the brain and what exactly we're working on in the brain. So which parts of the brain are we working on when we meditate? How are we doing that? And as a result of understanding that, really being able to make the connection between how does meditation feel What's it doing? And as you start to build the layers of this understanding, it really changes not only your commitment to your practice, but also your ability to drop into the practice. So as great as these daily sessions are, and how I'm really loving this opportunity to just connect with people and to be here together, for me, this is just a small part of this whole much bigger context of how we can train our minds and really experience our life differently. So in terms of today's practice, we're going to focus on this awareness, and we're going to imagine I've got this big bucket of awareness that I'm sitting in, and there's things that come up in my external environment for my awareness, there's things that internal states for my awareness, but the awareness container stays the same. And I'm just going to be allowing things to come into my awareness and then just go out again, rather than what tends to happen is a thought comes into my awareness and I latch onto the thought, and then the thought knocks around a bit, and then it might go, but then it comes back, and we get quite attached to it, and it makes it feel like our mind is just overthinking, and we're just stuck in that overthinking overwhelm. And so we're going to use a technique like we did, if you've meditated with me already, when we use a labeling technique, it's like a way of noting what we're experiencing. So we're going to use that, and don't worry if this isn't making sense yet, because it will as we practice. We're going to use a noting as a way to allow things to pass through. So treat this as an experiment with all meditation. Just be curious, like, what does this feel like? What happens today? There's no expectation of what it's going to do for you or how you're going to feel. It's just be with whatever comes up. And if you can hold on to the idea that we are trying to stay aware without holding too tight, so it's effortless effort. Same as with our posture. When I talk about our posture for meditation, I talk about finding the middle space between being really super active and having to hold it too tight, and being so relaxed that we're letting go and we're not present. So it's the same with our attention and our awareness. We want active but relaxed. So unlike the rest of our lives, we feel like we've got to grip it really tight. See if you can let go of the grip right now and just allow this experience. And I hope that you can just notice what comes up. So closing down your eyes, knowing that whatever comes up during these few minutes, we're just going to be able to notice them and then see what happens. So start by just paying attention to how your body feels in the chair. Beginning to turn away from that busy outward focus that we tend to have. And just coming inwards. If you imagine a car driving down a motorway in a fast lane, and you want to come off the slip road to the lovely country lanes with beautiful views and pretty fields, we just need to change gears first. So that's what we're going to do, is just slowly turning inwards. So taking your attention now that in your awareness and just placing it on the very tips of your fingers. So just seeing if you can be really aware of the sensations there. And you might also be aware of other things in that awareness as well, like thoughts or sensations. Or for me, there's sounds in my environment. I just want my tips of my fingers to be the main focus for me right now. So I'm actually making my awareness smaller, trying to hone it to that fingertip area, and just allow the other things to fade into the background. And see if you can add your toes to that awareness. You might be feeling in your fingers a sort of tingling or vibration, like a gentle humming or buzzing. That's your nervous system responding to your attention. When we turn inwards, we begin to pick up on the conversations that are happening. So your fingers are preparing for movement, and your toes are preparing for movement. And we feel that electrical impulse. See if you can allow it to spread up the lower leg, to the knees, along the thighs and into the hips. So your legs are in your awareness now, and still those fingertips. And perhaps there's a lightness or a heaviness to the legs. And then seeing if you can allow that awareness to spread across the palms of the hands, up the wrists and the forearms, up to the elbows, and up the tops of the arms, to the shoulders, across the chest, down into the belly. The whole body in your awareness now. And just noticing what that feels like. Maybe there's an opening or softening in the body. A feeling of just being. And seeing if you can allow yourself to be right here. So whenever your mind wanders, just coming back and knowing that moment of noticing is the moment that counts. I'm exactly where I planned to be. There is nowhere else to go. There's nothing else to do. This is it. And see if you can take your attention to your breath now. Noticing where you feel the breath. Maybe it's where that cool air enters the nostrils or the mouth. Maybe it's the rise and fall of the chest or the belly. Just allowing your attention to land somewhere on the breath. And again, we might be aware of other things too, but we're making the center of our awareness that breath, that rising and falling. And we'll begin to gently and softly label in the mind that raw experience of the breath. So when we breathe in, just labeling it rising. When we breathe out, falling. Rising, falling. Rising, falling. Taking a few breaths. And for now, we've had this focus. We've chosen where to put our attention and our awareness. Now we'll just let go of that control and we'll just allow our awareness to open. And if you need to come back to that breath at any time, it's your base camp, that place that's you can always return to. So just opening up your awareness and just noticing whatever comes into become that most prominent thing. So if there's a sensation in the body that becomes obvious, maybe where the chair meets the body or some area of tension, if that's the most obvious thing, just labeling it sensation, 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 until something else becomes the most prominent. Maybe there's a sound. And if you hear a sound, that becomes the most obvious thing in your awareness, the center of your awareness. Just labeling it hearing, hearing, hearing. And if there's thoughts, just labeling it thinking, thinking, thinking. And noticing how, without realizing it, we can be caught up in thinking. And we don't need to label everything we experience. Just whatever's the most obvious becomes temporarily the focus, in the same way that the breath was the focus. We just label that. So we just allow whatever comes up to be there until the next thing. Sensation, hearing, thinking. And we'll spend some time in silence just labeling whatever comes up. Noticing any judgments or thoughts, and they're just thoughts. It's just thinking. Letting the attention come back to the breath now, and choosing to make that the focus where we label that rising and falling. Rising, falling. Rising, falling. Noticing that the breath starts to deepen. Letting go of the labeling now. Just keeping the awareness gently in the breath. As we take 3 bigger than usual breaths. So breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth with a sigh. Gently blinking open the eyes, turning movement to the fingers and the toes. Just taking a moment, just seeing if anything's shifted or changed. And wherever you are today, most likely at home, but maybe you're about to go, maybe you're somebody who's working in the front line and having to go out. But I hope that you can enjoy some beautiful sunshine and allow things to come and go, and know that when you do that, you're allowing your body to come out of that stress response. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Take care. See you tomorrow.